Hi, Caleb from Brownells here, and in today's maintenance video, we're going to be taking care of the Springfield Prodigy. So this applies, honestly, pretty much for a lot of other 2011 style handguns, but we're going to be focusing on this one. Reason being is because I've been shooting this particular handgun all summer long, and I recently just shot it in this year's Gunfighter Gauntlet, so it is absolutely filthy. So we're going to go through and I'll show you how to clean it. Now, we're going to be going a little bit further than a field strip, but we're not going to be completely stripping everything down. But we're gonna do everything we need to do to get it nice and clean and functional and reliable. Also, we're going to be going over the most neglected part of this gun. That's actually the magazine. So we'll save that for last. All right. So I'll just kind of show you the tools I'm using as we go through it, just so you can see what we got going on here. But let's just jump right into it. Let's go ahead and, of course, make sure the magazine is out of the firearm. Make sure it is, in fact, unloaded. Visually inspect the chamber. And then we're going to repeat that step one more time. All right. And now we're ready to get after it. All right. So to take this firearm apart, actually what we're going to do, and I'll also mention real quick here, this gun is completely stock. The only thing I've added to it or done to it was this Surefire X300 Turbo, which is absolutely filthy. We'll clean that in a separate video. It's going to get its own thing. We're going to take that aside. We're going to leave the optic on. This is the Aimpoint Acro. This is the P2 3.5 MOA. And this thing has been absolutely amazing. So I usually don't shoot red dots a lot until I got this set up. Now I shoot it all the time. All right. Now, taking it apart, if you notice, there is a small notch right here in the slide itself. And let me get a pointing tool here. So you have this big notch here, right? That's where your slide catch engages whenever you lock it to the rear. Then you have this other little, I don't want to say half circle, like quarter circle piece right here. You're actually going to slide that back until it lines up over the back of your slide catch, and then because that's a relief cut to allow your slide catch to come out. So we'll pull it back, lining that piece up, and then when I line that up, what I'm going to be doing simultaneously is with this finger pushing on it from the opposite side, so this little button looking piece here. So we're going to slide back, I'm going to push that, and you can see it start to move outward. I'm going to push it as far as I can until I can't push it anymore. Then I'm going to come to this side and grab it. And there is going to be some friction, so you're going to have to pull it. All right, and it'll come right out. And the reason there was so much friction is because of this detent right here. That was also helping it kind of stay in there. And it rides in the back of it right there. All right, so now we can gently let the slide come forward. And you notice it will now come all the way forward. We'll set the frame down and we'll focus on the slide here. All right, so this particular one has this two-piece guide rod. So we're going to need to take off the front piece of that guide rod to get it out. And so what we'll need here, have a set of hex wrenches. Let me just try to remember what size this is. It is not that size. Looks like probably going to be 9/64. Yep. All right. So you're going to take this and unscrew it. All right, so that portion will come off right there. And then now the back is kind of wanting to fly out like that right there. You can just grab it. Be careful because this is under spring tension. And just pull it all out. Set that aside. And then you also have, in the front here, you can push back, this reverse plug here that goes in from the back. You can pull that out as well. Set that down. So now, unlike most of your other semi-autos you may be used to, on this one the barrel is just going to slide out of the front. So this little piece that's flopping around right here, that's your link. All right, you just want to make sure your link is forward, laying down, and then you can slide that barrel right out of the slide. We'll set that down. All right, so now we're getting somewhere. All right, now what I want to do, I said, so let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. So where we are right now, this is the field strip, right? This is it, kind of taken apart how it would be most of the time when you clean it. Like I said, we're going to go a little bit further. So what I want to do is I want to remove this extractor, the firing pin, and the firing pin spring. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to remove this back plate right here. So I'm just going to take a punch, just a small size, something like this. All we need to do is depress the firing pin, and when we do that, slide down on this plate. And then as you can see, it kind of is now capturing the firing pin. So what I'm going to do, because this is under spring tension, I'm just going to put it down on my rag on the table like this and just continue to slide that plate off. And let the rag catch that firing pin. There's our plate. We'll set that aside. Firing pin and spring both came out. And the spring is kind of stuck on the firing pin there. Just grab it up close here, give it a twist, and it'll come right out. And then now, because the way this plate slides in, it was also capturing the extractor. So this is what's considered an internal extractor because it goes inside of the slide. It's not cut into the side like some you'll see. But we're just going to pull this right out using our punch for leverage. And if it gets caught up there, you may need to go to the front here. And if you can see it, that extractor claw, just kind of push it out of the way and back. So we'll just push it out of the way and back. And I apologize in advance. There's no real way for me and you to see that at the same time, but I just use my punch to push it down into that channel. And then now we can just pull it straight out. Give it a little twist if you need to. And I'm glad we took this thing out because it is absolutely filthy. Okay, so now that's as far as we're going to go on the slide. If you don't mind, you can take your optic off if you have one. Just note that you may have to re-zero if you do that. It'll still be close when you put it back on, but it may not be perfect. So all I really do is just wipe off my windows with a clean cloth here. I'm using the non-oily part of my rag. We're going to have to wipe it off again because we're about to get all kind of solvent and stuff on this thing. But now from here, what I'm going to do is actually start throwing down some cleaning solution. And the reason we're kind of just jumping right into that is because the frame itself, I'm not going to take anything else off. I'm going to leave the frame as is, field stripped just like this, because we can pretty much get to everything we need to get to just like this. But the slide is where we really wanted to dig in. So put up my wrench here. And all right, so let me get my coffee out of the way, way out of the way. I'm gonna take a sip first, because there is actually coffee in that cup. Okay, so we'll get that out the way. And what I'm gonna do at this point, and I will say this, if you have an ultrasonic cleaner, that can speed this up tremendously. I have one, but I'm not using it because I know a lot of y'all don't have it. So I'm showing you how to do it without it. But typically, I would throw this thing in there. Alright, some Hoppies number 9 here. What I'll actually do is pour some into the lid. That way I'm not dipping my dirty brush into my container here. We'll set that down. And I like to use these acid brushes for the initial cleaning part here. And this is a Brownells product, so you know where to get it. But we'll just dip that in some Hoppies number 9 and just start getting this stuff everywhere. We want to get it all over that carbon. Anywhere there's carbon, we're going to coat that sucker with hoppies here. And you can see we are making a huge mess, so that's good. That's how you know it's cleaning. All right, man, that Hoppy's number 9 smells great. That never gets old. And this one is ported, so we're gonna pay some close attention to that port right there as well. So that's where a lot of the gas and stuff is shooting out of there. And I'm just cleaning up these slide rails here, getting into all the creases and stuff. And I'm using this acid brush with that number 9 just to help break it all up. Because you can get some stuff in a spray bottle, spray it in there, but using an acid brush, just these bristles really help break it up. And this slide is Cerakoted, so that also helps quite a bit as well. Paying attention to the actual breech face right here also. And where that extractor was, getting it all in there. Alright, you can see we're making quite the mess. So you're going to definitely need to have some rags handy. And I'm going to let this stuff kind of soak in for a minute here. I'm actually going to try and get some more down those channels in the back, which we're going to give some special attention to here shortly, so don't worry about that. Alright, so I'm just going to let this stuff soak in and eat away at that carbon. I'll set it aside. Right, I'm going to grab another rag here. I got these small ones, but I'm making quite the mess. So, old t-shirts work really well for this. And we'll just kind of keep this handy, because we're going to need it again for sure. Alright, so as this is doing its thing, we can just come over to these other parts here and just wipe them down. So this firing pin spring isn't bad at all, really. So I'm just going to wipe down the outside of it. And this is a good time to inspect your parts as well. So I'm going to make sure there's nothing built up in there. And just make sure the spring looks the way it should look, you know. Make sure there's no kinks, cracks, anything like that. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to this 2-piece guide rod. So this here, I keep this gun well lubricated, so this stuff is just wiping right off. If you're having issues with it, you can take a brush, like this M16 brush here, and you can scrub it if you need to. But as you can see, it's staying pretty darn clean just by wiping it off. And I'll pull my recoil spring off and just clean up the rest of this guide rod. Just like that. Nice and easy. And I'll try and get those threads the best I can as well. You don't really need to go crazy on that though, because those aren't exposed to anything. And the recoil spring, we're going to do the same thing we did with the firing pin spring. We're just going to wipe it down like this here. Just a good outside wipe down will be fine. And you can look in there. If you have any excessive buildup in the middle or anything like that, you can take one of these long Q-tips, these Brownells Q-tips here, or cotton swabs I should say, and just run it through the inside. And you can see we're picking up some gunk there. So you can run this through. I'll probably do one more just for good measure here. Yeah, still dirty, but a lot cleaner. And that's good. That'll be just fine. Alright, and this one looks good. So we'll leave it like that. And as you can see, one end of this spring is open, the other end's closed. We'll go through that during reassembly, don't worry about that right now. Alright, and this reverse plug, same situation, we're just going to wipe it down. Nice and easy. And it has an interior, so we'll just get one of these Q-tips in here, or cotton swabs I should say. Q-tip is a brand, cotton swab is a type, or something like that. Alright. And just inspect the inside. That looks pretty good. Alright, and that's done as well. That's easy. And the firing pin is also very easy. You just take it with your rag and wipe it. Nothing too crazy there. And just take a good look at it. Make sure it's nice and concentric, no bends or anything like that, no excessive peening or wear on any part of it. And that looks pretty good. Now let's move on to that little back plate we took off. We're just going to wipe that down with the rag as well, because everything on here is easy to get to. And the back end of your cotton swab is tapered, so it's good for getting into areas like that right there. Coming from both directions. And that's clean. Now our slide catch here. We'll wipe that down. And these usually get pretty dirty because the back side of them's right there where all the action's happening. So we can actually acid brush the back of this as well with some hoppies and wipe it right off. Hit it with the brush and done. Now the extractor is going to be pretty gunked up. So I'm just going to wipe it on down with this acid brush and some number 9. Making sure I get into the actual claw that grabs the rim of the case. Make sure that's clean so it can actually do its job. And you can see that's looking pretty good. Now it's good to be able to tell the difference between what's just wear and then what's caked up carbon and stuff like that. Because if you look at it from a distance, it still looks kind of dirty, but if you get close to it, you notice that that's just the wear areas where the finish is starting to wear down, which is perfectly normal. Alright, and we can set that aside. Now everything is clean, with the exception of the slide itself and the barrel. Let's go ahead and clean up this barrel. We'll start with the outside. I'm just going to add a little more hoppies to my cap here. And I'm just coating the outside of this thing, scrubbing it down. Get around the link, get around the back side. Now you can put this barrel in the vise if you want, or you can freehand it. Either way is fine. I'm going to go ahead and take this Dewey rod here and this Brownells brush for it. screw it on, and dip it in some number 9. And then coming from the bridge side here, I'm going to push the brush through and run it back and forth a handful of times. Alright. Now I can also gently put it in there where that port is and just give it a twist. Clean that up a bit. Alright. Now there is a bunch of carbon kind of caked up around where the port is here. It's not a huge deal. I try to get some of it off if I can, but if some's still there, I'm not too concerned about it. You can use a pick like this one here and scrape it if you want. You just gotta kind of get in there on it and dig it out. But like I said, unless it's getting like really caked on there, like excessively, I usually don't worry about it. Alright, so now that we've scrubbed the inside, the outside is nice and filthy here. I'm going to go ahead and wipe down the outside of this barrel using a rag. Taking my brush, getting this backside here. That's looking pretty good. I'm just trying to really get into these corners here because that's where that carbon and other gunk likes to stick. And if you have access to compressed air, you can blow a lot of this stuff out, and that makes things really easy. Alright, this is looking pretty good here. Alright, so the outside's clean. Now we just need to go through the inside. I'm going to remove my brush. Put my jag on. Then I'm going to take a patch, just dry for now. I'm going to go in that barrel from the rear and just push it right out the front. Just like that. And it's still, you can kind of see down in there a bit. It's really dirty where that port is, because the rifling actually stops behind the port, including the bottom. We'll get in there with a Q-tip in a bit, but let's run one more dry patch through there. And you can see it's still coming out a little dirty. That's okay. It doesn't have to. The thing I see the most is people just sitting there, banging their head against the wall, trying to get the inside of their handgun barrel perfectly clean. So between how it is right now, that amount of dirt on there, and it coming out perfectly spotless, you're going to notice absolutely zero difference in performance. It doesn't matter. It's okay to have a little bit on your patch whenever you call it quits on the clean in there. It doesn't have to be perfect is what we're getting at. Alright, so before I run an oil patch through there, I'm going to take some more of these cotton swabs here, and I'm just going to get in down around that port area. It's kind of like almost like an expansion chamber for the port itself, really. And we're just going to run our cotton swab around. And you can see it's dirty, but it's not, I mean, not nearly as dirty as, you know, some of these other swabs here. So it's not bad. Yep, that's looking pretty good. And like I said, there's carbon buildup in there. You can pick away at it and scrape at it for a while. Knock that stuff off of there. But it's not too bad right now, so we'll just leave it how it is. Alright, so now we're going to run one more patch through it, but this one's going to have some oil on it. Alright, and typically for this, I'll just use a little bit of rim oil. Spray a little bit of that on the patch. And just run it through. You don't have to use rim oil, you can use your favorite gun oil. I typically use a few different types of oils for different things, but it's perfectly acceptable just to use one oil the whole time. That's fine. Alright, and that inside of that barrel, I know you're not going to be able to see it, but that sucker looks brand new. It is a mirror finish in there. But let's keep going here. Let's finish off this slide and get it reassembled. Then we'll start on the frame. Or we'll just reassemble it all at once. Keep things nice and compartmentalized here. Alright, so we have, look at that. That thing is just gross. Okay. So for this, again, this is where compressed air would come in really handy. But I'm going to do something a little bit different here because we have some Brownells gun scrubber. And I was going to grab a bin here, but I'll just use, if you have like some small part storage bins or something like that, like I do on the other side of the room, but don't want to walk over there to go get, a rag like this works perfectly fine. So as I mentioned, I have some Brownells gun scrubber. This one's almost empty, but that's okay. We'll finish it off and then I got some more. Alright, so this right here, the Brownells gun scrubber, it is a high pressure spray, so you're gonna, I would recommend wearing some iPro if you've never used this before, or just, you know, for good practice in general. But it is a degreaser. Okay, so everywhere this touches raw metal, we need to make sure we follow that up with oil, which is where the rim oil comes in. We need to rehydrate that metal. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to try not to directly get this on any of my lenses here. I'm going to keep it all kind of in the inside, but we'll just point it downward and just give it a spray. And this just air is coming out because this sucker is almost empty. Alright, this one's better. Here we go. So we'll just give that a spray, and I'll turn it so you can see what's going on here. And you can already see how well that's cleaning. Since that Hoppy's number 9 kind of broke everything up, pulled it away from the actual slide itself, spraying this on, it just runs right off. So this is a huge time saver. Spray it in that firing pin channel there, the extractor channel. Slide rails are actually looking pretty darn good, but we'll clean those up a little more too. Alright. And you can just kind of see all the junk that was coming off of there. Even a lot of like copper shavings and stuff, or brass shavings from the cases on there. Those cartridge cases. And you couldn't really tell what they were because they were black from all the carbon, but now you can really see them. So it cleans off all that stuff too, which is great. And it dries very, very fast because it is a degreaser. So we can just go behind it and just give it a quick little wipe here. Alright, so now I want to clean out those channels also, because those are really hard to get to. And the Q-tips work, or excuse me, cotton swabs work great for that. And it is a little large to get into that firing pin channel, but they're the perfect size for that extractor channel. But I'll show you how to get them into that firing pin one here shortly. And we're just going to run this sucker all the way through, and I will show you why we need to clean that. Look at that there. Too much of that will definitely hinder the performance of your extractor, so we need to get that stuff out of there. This is the first time I've cleaned that extractor channel on this gun. So if you shoot a lot, it's definitely something you want to do, I'd say probably quarterly. If not, it's something you can knock out annually if you don't shoot a ton. But we'll just run another one in there. And man, that sucker's still dirty. So what we'll do, I'll take another one. We'll dip it in some number 9, saturate it, put it in there. It's a little harder to get in there now. If you're having troubles, you can run it through backwards because that backside is tapered. And we'll pull it through. Yeah, that did a pretty good job of breaking it up. Then I'll run a dry one through here. We'll see what kind of progress we're making. I'll run that one backwards again. All right. Still really dirty on one side, but we're looking much better. I'm trying to see where it is coming from. I'm going to try and scrub it with this one here. You just got to be careful when you do that because these cotton swabs kind of fall apart while you're doing that. Like this one just did. But that's alright, we got it all out. Alright, looks like we're kind of getting somewhere here. And you can use the back side of these to scrape if you need to, because I kind of see an area in there. So I'm going to use the back side and see if I can just kind of knock it off. And I just destroyed that one with my hands. Because I'm so strong. Just destroyed it with my bare hands. There we go. Alright. Small little wooden stick didn't stand a chance. Alright, and there's just a little bit on there now, but that's looking pretty darn good. If I look down there, it looks nice and clean. So I am happy with that. And I'm going to run one more down there with some oil on it, some light oil. But before I do that, I'm going to take this brush here, clean it up a little bit, and then just run it on that breech face. Yep, that's looking good. And then this little backside here is perfect for your rails. You can even take a rag. Now let me use a smaller one here, or excuse me, a patch. We'll use a patch. Lay it over there, and you can run this right down your rails with it, just like so. And as you can see, that does a pretty good job at cleaning them. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Alright, and I'm going to take a little bit of rim oil on one of these cotton swabs here. I say a little bit. I'm going to soak the swab in it because rim oil is super thin, which is what makes it so great for stuff like this. And I'm just going to pull it back down. And that came out dirtier than I wanted it to, so I'm going to run one more. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay. And that rim oil, just put a small coat of oil on the inside there. And even though we ran a dry patch or a dry swab through after that, the rim oil's still on there. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll take one of these and just kind of pull the tip of it, deconstruct it a little bit here. And I'll just kind of pull the end off so that we're left with something like this. Soak it in some number 9 and run it through that firing pin channel. As you can see, it is pretty darn dirty. And I'm going to do that again with a dry one. Just kind of pull it and twist it so it's the right size to get into that firing pin channel. And that looks much better. That spot usually doesn't get nearly as bad as the extractor cut area. Alright. Now I'm just kind of getting all that excess hoppies off of here. And I just broke that one too. But that's okay. Alright. Now we're looking pretty good. But like I said, anywhere that degreaser touches, especially raw metal, and there's a lot of raw metal on here, simply just because the finish is wearing off because I'm using the heck out of this thing, especially on those wear surfaces like that breech face right there. Let me unbury my pick here. So when I first got it, that was Cerakoted like the rest of the gun, but as you can see, it is wearing off, which is perfectly normal. Don't freak out if your gun's doing that too. Alright, great. Now, what I want to do is take this rim oil and just spray everywhere that gun scrubber was, and then just wipe it all down. Alright, and like I said, you can use your favorite gun oil for this, but rim oil has always worked very well for me. Okay, great. The slide's done. All that's kind of ready to be lubricated and reassembled, but we're going to knock out this frame real quick. Alright, so what I'm going to do with this, take my brush, take my hoppies, kind of hold it upside down here, and get after it. And this area in the front right here, where that feed ramp goes, that's going to be pretty dirty, because again, that's where the action happens, and the action is the juice. Yes, that was for those of you still trying to figure out, that was a quote from the movie Heat. Alright. And just get all down in there. You can get into the mag well too. Don't be scared to get into that mag well area. And I'm kind of holding it upside down because I don't want a ton of poppies going down into the mechanism for the trigger and stuff like that. Which is why we're not going to use gun scrubber on here either. Now if I were taking it completely apart, yeah, I'd be going for it. But for this, I'm not going to. And everywhere you can get with a rag, get it. Just get in there. And if you saw me earlier, so if you want to drop this hammer to clean behind it, just take a firing grip, put your thumb on the hammer, pull the trigger, and let it slowly come forward. And then wipe behind it just like this. And for all these hard to reach areas, cotton swabs here. And again, right now, if you had access to compressed air, right now you would just blow that stuff out of there. Makes things way faster. So if you have an air compressor, some of the canned air, whatever it may be, this is a great use for it. Like that keyboard duster and stuff like that works really well on this. Getting around where that link goes and locks in, that's going to be pretty dirty, as you can see. And for these little crevices like this, where stuff is kind of stuck in there, I'm using the back side of this cotton swab here, because it's made of wood. It's made just for that right there. And then, as you can see, there's a piece gunked up right here. We'll just take our pick and knock that off. Alright. Yes, things looking pretty good. So all I'm doing is just looking around anywhere where there's some, hoppies or gunk or anything of that nature. I'm just wiping it off. And again, for the slide rails themselves, it's kind of recessed in there. It's hard to get to. I'm going to go back to my Steve Ostrom trick here with my patch and my bristles and just get it in there, because that fits perfectly. I'm going to do that on all four. And any other area I can fit it in. Works really good. I'm seeing around that safety too on the right side. It gets right in between the safety and that grip. Perfect. And if you know how to pull all this apart, you certainly can. I'm just kind of doing something that's a little more novice without being too novice. That's why we took the whole slide apart, but we don't want to go that deep today. All right, excellent. So now I'm just going to take some rim oil and dust it here. And I'm getting, my grip safety is actually starting to rust a little bit from my sweaty hands. So I'm going to get a little bit on there too. And I'm going to spray some in the mag well. I'm actually going to take this rag from the bottom of the mag well and just stuff it up through the top here. And just wiggle it on out. That helps clean all that. And since everything's covered in rim oil, I just need to wipe down the outside here. And it was apparently just a little bit of surface rust on that grip safety because it literally looks good as new. So we're just going to wipe off all the bulk here. Got my hammer come forward. And as I mentioned before, I do use different oils for different things. So I'm going to use Sons of Liberty Spec 76 on these rails when I reassemble it. You do have to be mindful of mixing certain oils together. I'm not like a chemist or a like rocket surgeon or anything, so I don't know what properties make what incompatible. But I do know that rim oil and Spec 76 are okay together because I've used it a ton. Alright, great. Now, everything is clean except the magazine. We'll do that last, as I mentioned. But let's get this gun back together. So the frame, we'll set that down. And we're just going to go in reverse order. So I'm going to put my extractor back in first. And for this, because it does flex a little bit because it's spring loaded, but it's not something that's moving a lot. So I'm just going to rim oil it, wipe off the excess, and throw it back in there. That's it. I try not to put a lot of lubricant in these channels because if I'm getting this thing nice and dirty, it'll tend to gum up a bit. And I'm also, you can just take a cotton patch and wipe your lenses off too. Alright. Alright, so the extractor's in. Now the firing pin, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the firing pin and the spring, and I'm trying to get this so you can see here, but I'm just going to put a little bit of rim oil on them, and that's it for that part. Alright, so on your firing pin spring, you'll have one end that's bound tighter than the other. So that tight end, you want to push onto the firing pin, and you should meet a little bit of resistance right there and have to force it on the rest of the way. Now what you don't want to do is do that backwards, alright? Where it's all loosey-goosey like that, you don't want that. So take it on, push it, just like so. Now we can take that, and what I will do, take a little bit of that oil I mentioned before, put one little bitty drop right there, another one on that back one. So these two like flanges here, that's your contact surface in the channel. And just rub a little bit. That's it. I don't use any like heavy oil or anything like that. I don't put a ton of it. Just that light little amount right there is all you need. And your back plate, again, you don't really need much oil on that. I'm just going to hit it with the rim oil, wipe off the excess, and we're going to position this to go on. Now if you notice, one end of it is square, like this top right here, nice and square. The other end has a bevel on it, so it's curved like that, right? And then the back side is just completely flat. So the back side goes against the slide, and the flat top goes on first, so it goes upwards. Because this bevel right here needs to be on the bottom, because as your slide is cycling, that bevel is what's pushing back on your hammer, right? So that's why that bevel's there. So just remember, I'm telling you what it does to help you remember how to put it back together, because if you understand what the part does, then it's easier to get it back together. Alright, so beveled side, just remember that goes against the hammer. So we're going to get this started in the grooves here. And while we're kind of holding down on that with our thumb, not too much pressure, just gentle, because we need this firing pin to be able to move. So I'll push it down by hand. Then I'll line up the plate. And also, if it's not going in, it's because your extractor isn't lined up. There it goes. Because it rides through the groove on that extractor. So we'll get it started, push it, and if you're pushing on it, it should stop that firing pin. Now we're going to push down all the way, and we got to get it past that second ring right there. So I'm going to use a little bit larger punch so I have more contact here. But we're just going to push it in. Alright, now once it's captured under the back plate, just push the plate flush. And the firing pin should pop through. Now to make sure that that's functioning properly, just take your firing pin. It should depress in and out. And if you look on the breech face, you'll see your firing pin protruding through. Alright. Now that is back together. So now we're back to the point of the gun being field stripped. Alright. So now we need to get the barrel back in first. And I'm going to lubricate it as I put it back in. So on the outside, just a light coat of rim oil. Wipe off all the extra. And then on your high friction areas, specifically your locking lugs, you'll just want to put a little bit of your good oil here. So your lubricant. So we're mostly using this rim oil as a preservative, and we're using this as the lubricant. So on your high friction surfaces, that's where you want this. And I won't really leave it thick on there. I'll just kind of wipe it with my finger. Get a nice light coat. And where that link is moving back and forth, I'll just put a drop on either side. And then work that link a little bit, because we want that moving nice and free. Okay, so we'll lay the link forward. Insert the barrel into the slide. That'll drop into place. We will set this down, and while we do that, we will stab ourselves with our Brownells needle oiler. That felt great. And then from there, we'll take this reverse plug here. A little bit of rim oil. And if you notice, one side has this raised ring around it. That's going to go towards the back. So the front smaller side just drops right in. And goes just like that. Alright, now for the recoil spring. Again, all these other little metal pieces and stuff here, we're just going to hit them with rim oil. And wipe them. Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are two sides to this recoil spring. One open side, one closed side. The closed side is what goes on your guide rod. Push it all the way against the back shoulder, just like that. The open side, just leave it open right out the front. Alright, now, let me get this out your way here. We'll take our link, flip it up. Take the guide rod, and if you notice, there's this little half circle cut that goes against the barrel, so that's going to go down, just like that. But we're going to insert our recoil spring. Push it in, and it's going to want to kind of bulge out like that. That's okay. Take the other half of your guide rod. One end is open, one end is cut for your wrench. Obviously the open end goes on your threads. Just slide that in, align it, get it started by hand. And then we will take our, what did I say, 9/64ths. And we will tighten that sucker down. No, that was the wrong size. Oh, 5/30 seconds. Excuse me. All right, and what I like to do is grab it tight like this right here and snug it up. We'll finish tightening it whenever it's on the gun because that kind of helps hold everything in place. All right, so now what we need to do is take our frame, take our lubricant. I'm going to lubricate the inside and outside of these rails here, as well as the top. So top, outside, inside. Do that for all 4 rails. And you can put a little bit on your disconnector right here. A little bit on the face of the hammer. Put a drop right here on this detent. And if you if you cock your hammer, push your safety up, you can put a little bit on the other side of that detent right there. And work it in. Alright, yep, that's looking good. Okay, now your link is going to move back and forth like this. Be mindful of that because when we take this slide stop here, which I'm going to lubricate, it's got to go through the side of the frame. When it goes through the side of the frame, it's got to go through the link. Alright, it's got to capture that link. So what I'm going to do, now that everything's lubricated, I'm going to put my slide onto my frame rails and push it back here. And spoiler alert, your safety does have to be off because if your safety's up, it blocks the slide from going on. So safety off, slide it back. And as you can see, I can move the slide back and forth slightly to line up the link. All right. So what I'm going to do is visually look at it, line it up to the best of my ability. And fortunately, the end of this slide catch is rounded, so it'll kind of self-guide it if you're close. And what I find is easiest to do is muzzle down and then just kind of wiggle it back and forth. Now we're going to take this slide catch here, push it in, and you'll feel it when it goes through. Alright, now what I want to do is take my slide catch. I'm going to be pushing inward with this thumb. This thumb is going to be pushing upward as well as inward. But remember, we need to line up that notch just like so. That little half circle has to be right above it so that it can go in. So while holding the slide back just like so, push inward and upward. And it snapped right into place. Now you can let the slide go forward. Alright, so that's all there is to it. And we just need to do a quick function check. So I'm going to pull the slide back, let it go, pull the trigger, cock it again, pull the trigger but hold the trigger, slowly let off the trigger and feel for that reset. There was the click, right? So the trigger reset, fine, that's good. Turn my safety on and just make sure that hammer doesn't move with the safety on. And then at this point you can also just, you're bound to have some excess oil on this thing. So just feel free to give it a good wipe down, including, if you're using one, your optic. Great. Almost great. Got a little piece of fuzz. Okay. Great. All right. So that's it for the actual gun itself. This thing looks way cleaner. I haven't seen it this clean in a while. And as you can see, we still have a little bit of, I say, carbon buildup. I can't tell if it's on the Cerakote or it kind of like blew the Cerakote off because that's a port, right? But there's still a little bit there. Honestly, not worried about it. It's just cosmetic at this point. Now for the magazine. So, for your magazine, what you're going to need to do, using a punch, depress and remove your base plate. So your base plate's going to come off back to front. So push that down as far as you can. While moving the base plate forward here. And they are on there pretty stiff, so it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease on your part. There we go. Alright, and keep your thumb over the back. Base plate comes off. Your base plate retainer, spring, and follower. Now, this magazine is absolutely filthy. I've been going through dust, dirt, mud, all that stuff with this thing. So I'm only doing one magazine to kind of show you, but do this for all your magazines. What I'll do is I'll just stuff a rag through and just run that sucker through there. There's nothing really caked up on the inside, so you don't really need to get in there too crazy. I don't even use any solvents or anything. I just do this sucker dry because a wet magazine doesn't really work well. It tends to retain a lot of that dust and dirt and gunk and stuff in there. So honestly, I just wipe it down dry. And I do that for all of it. Base plate retainer. The inside of that base plate is pretty gross. We'll wipe that out. Okay, now I'm going to use a dry lubricant. So this is Mag Slick. It's specifically for magazines. I use it on AR buffer springs and stuff too, though. You're like, man, Caleb, that's not dry. That's going on wet. It dries. It'll be dry in a second. And I use it on the outside as well as the inside of the magazines. And I'll just let it sit for a second. Let it dry. And it, as you can see, it dries pretty quick. And yeah, I'll just do that with the rag there. The inside's good. Take your follower. Now your follower is this slope with a little ledge on the front. Keyword being the front, because that little ledge, everything needs to go in just like this. It lines up, right? So that little ledge needs to be in that cut of the magazine. So drop your follower in and your spring. Make sure that ledge is in that cut. So it should look just like this. If it looks like that, you did it right. If it doesn't look like that, you did it wrong. Okay. Now we can take our base plates. You notice they have these little smiley face looking lips. That goes against the spring. One end is beveled, so it just goes against the bevel of the magazine. It only fits in there one way. And then that little protrusion right there should be in the front because it's going to go through there. So push this down, slide on your base plate, and push it back until it clicks in. If it doesn't click in, just hit it on your hand a few times and it'll probably fall into place. Alright, and then that's it. That's all there is to it. Alright, so that was a pretty long video, but pretty detailed of how to clean your Springfield Prodigy or other similar 2011. Alright, so now I gotta clean up this mess here. So, if you have any questions, comments, preferred cleaning methods, anything like that, as I mentioned before, I really like the ultrasonics setup, but we didn't use that in this video. Let us know in the comments down below, especially if you have a preferred, oil, lubricant, preservative, whatever. And as always, if you need help with anything for any reason ever, feel free to give us a call on the tech line. We'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.